listening to Cosmic Cousins Soul-Centered Astrology. I am your host, Jeff Henshaw. Thanks for tuning in. Cosmic Cousins is dedicated to honoring the interconnectedness of our universal family through embodied health, self-discovery, and deeper learning. And it is here to bring you back into alignment with the cosmos. So thank you for being here as always. Hey Cosmic Cousins, welcome back to another week of the show. This is our Aquarius Full Moon podcast episode. Just as a reminder, we meet on each new and full moon, and so right now we find ourselves here in the middle, coming towards the end of Leo season of 2022. If you're listening to this on or around the Aquarius full moon, a lot of this information will resonate, but also if you're listening to this at a future date as well, this episode will offer you a meditation on the Aquarian archetype in the year 2022. So this Aquarius full moon, it falls on a Thursday, which is Jupiter's day. And Jupiter is the esoteric ruling planet for Aquarius. So there's traditional ruling planets, there's modern ruling planets, and then there's the esoteric. So the traditional ruler for Aquarius is Saturn. So Saturn is being activated and awakened in all of our charts on this Aquarius full moon, particularly because this full moon is hanging out with Saturn in the sky. So we'll talk a little bit about Saturn and Aquarius today. For those of you with Saturn and Aquarius, you're coming towards the end of your Saturn return. So this full moon spotlights Saturn for us. The modern ruler for Aquarius is Uranus, and Uranus is currently in Taurus, and it is square to this full moon. So we're going to talk about both of these planetary rulers, but something about this full moon being on a Thursday also catches my eye because the esoteric ruler Jupiter is being highlighted by this day. Jupiter is currently in Aries and stationed retrograde just 2 weeks ago. So we'll touch base with Jupiter today as well. So already we can feel the Aquarian feels of a lot of information, and particularly information that connects us to the cosmos. Aquarius is the sign that is connected to astrology. It's connected to the stars in the sky. So it's a special full moon for everyone in the astrology community. I also find that anything that connects us to archetypes or having a bigger picture idea. So the Aquarius full moon is a great time to meditate on your birth chart. It's a great time to glean insight from a tarot reading, to spend time with friends, communicating, community, all of this. So yes, Aquarius full moon blessings to you. Before we expand out into this episode, I would like to just remind you of a few offerings that I have coming up, and I also have a special announcement. So I'm excited to announce that I have the great honor of now being a member of the Heidi Rose Robbins astrology team. And so many of you know Heidi. I've had Heidi on the podcast, and I've been on hers. She hosts the podcast, The Radiance Project, and also Chart Your Career podcast. And she's an incredible esoteric astrologer that weaves poetry, embodiment, and community together. And she does it in that Leo rising way with a lot of warmth and compassion. And so she's built an entire online platform called Luminosity, and it's geared towards helping others learn and practice astrology and community. And so I'm part of the Luminosity community now. I'm on there answering questions and engaging with the community. And I also offer sun, moon, rising snapshots and transit snapshots. So these are 15 to 20 minute audio recordings. So if you're interested in receiving a snapshot from me, either a sun, moon, rising, or a transit, you can purchase it through Heidi's website. And when filling out the form in the notes, just be sure to request Jeff Henshaw as your astrologer. And that will help to connect you to not only my offerings, but also to Heidi's Luminosity community. So that's exciting. Feels very Aquarian to announce it today on this Aquarius full moon. And in addition, the star card in the tarot is Aquarius's soul growth card. So the next announcement that I have is a new offering I have that's around the star card in the tarot. And so also you can go ahead and get your star card out if you use the tarot as a meditation. And usually depicted on the star card is a figure that's completely in the nude. And they have a jug of water or 2 jugs of waters that they're pouring to the earth and also into what I like to call a cosmic lake. So the lake is reflecting the stars in the sky, and so it's peering into the unconscious that's also cosmic. And bathing the self is an act of healing to the world. So Aquarius learns that when they bring healing to themselves, it acts as a ripple effect of healing around the world. And we can look at the glyph for Aquarius. It is 2 energy waves, which is like ripples of water. So yes, Aquarius, the water bearer. So this new offering that I have is called Journey to the Star. And it's a full day of healing and embodiment in person in Portland, Oregon. And so I'm creating an intimate, deep community immersion with my friend Ashley River, who is a Taurus. And the focus of the Healing Day retreat is a journey to the star. So we'll each get the opportunity to sit with the tarot in the morning and do altar building. I'll be leading that experience. The day will be also bringing you an hour of spa time at the Everett House in Portland, Oregon. It's also going to be food from one of my favorite restaurants, which is called Sudra, which is a vegan Indian restaurant here in Portland. The Angry Florist is going to be offering flowers for us. And then the day ends with a tattoo ritual that Ashley will host. So it's a full packed day of healing and reflection and nourishment through community. So if you're interested in connecting with me, this is on September 14th. This is during Virgo season. It's a Virgo sun with a Taurus moon day, and it's from 9 to 6, so it's an all-day retreat. So there's a link in the show notes to that as well, and I'd love to connect with you in that way. In addition, I also have astrology readings and tarot readings available, and you can find all of that at cosmiccousins.com. And so at this time, let's go ahead and transition into our Aquarius full moon meditation and rest of this podcast episode. So you can start by bringing your awareness to your body and your breath. Each time we gather, I'll always invite you to connect to the body in some way, and this helps to bring the cosmic practice of astrology into the body. And so Aquarius is connected to the ankles and the Achilles tendon. So we can first start by placing our hands on this part of the body, or just bringing our awareness to the ankles. It's a very delicate joint that holds the weight of the entire body. And so Aquarius is the humanitarian. The water bearer holds the weight of humanity. And so being easy on the ankles on this full moon. It's also connected to the calves, the energy body, and the nervous system. So as Saturn's in Aquarius over these few years, Saturn wants us to commit. So in a very practical, health-focused way, Saturn in Aquarius says commit to your nervous system. So we're taking in a lot of information at this time. We're expanding our consciousness to incorporate all of humanity. And that can really activate the nervous system. So in whatever ways you bring regulation to your nervous system, for some this could be setting more clear boundaries with the internet. For others of us, this could be having a consistent practice of movement. Others, it's breath work. Remember, Aquarius, even though it's the water bearer, is an air sign. So that connection to breath is really important. And so Aquarius moon. Moon is the unconscious drive towards something. So there's an unconscious drive towards group energy. Aquarius takes on this socially progressive and a social perception of the world. And so Moon in Aquarius, there's a sense of friendliness, being humane, independent. This makes for a broad mind, and it gives an underlying desire to investigate knowledge. The Moon in Aquarius is sensitive to group energies. Not necessarily an emotional way. It's more like, because Aquarius Moon picks up on other people's thoughts. It's the group energy, the group thought. So when we talk about the internet as being something that Aquarius rules over, the internet is a place where we can actually read what the group is thinking, for better or for worse. And so Aquarius is tapped into that vibration. And so oftentimes they have the ability to help lead the group in a thought that is healthy and productive for the evolution of our planet. And so Aquarius learning to practice communicating their truth is important work. And so we all do this during the Aquarius full moon, and whatever we have in Aquarius is on this journey as well. So when we look at the glyph for Aquarius, what we'll see is two energy waves. It's energy and vibration, and it's two waves running parallel to one another. And so energy is important when working with Aquarius, whether it's tuning into the chakra system, whether it is actually practicing energy healing, or working with the energy of stones. You know, if there was ever a full moon to supercharge your crystals under, it's the Aquarius full moon. And perhaps you make this part of your ritual. On the Aquarius full moon, I bring all of my crystals out and I charge them up. And since we're in Leo's sun, we can charge them for a full 24 hours under the light of the sun. The sun is the most powerful when it's in the sign of Leo, and then under the light of the full moon during the nighttime. So the full moon light of Aquarius, it holds the potential to amplify your intentions for a future of greater interconnectedness and freedom. And also charging up the crystals, it holds the power to amplify the healing properties of your crystals and whatever their spiritual significance may mean to you on your journey of healing. So this Aquarius full moon, Thursday, August 11th, 2022 at 6:35 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Again, Thursday, August 11th at 6:35, and it's found at the 19th degree of Aquarius in 21 minutes. So we're in Leo season, Leo's sun with an Aquarius moon. Leo is a sign of passion, of romance, of intimacy. Its card in the tarot is Strength, which shows a figure petting a lion. Aquarius is the sign of great friendship and community. So with the sun in Leo and the moon in Aquarius, we have this opportunity to reflect on this polarity in our life. And Aquarius asks, this full moon says, what friendships, groups, and communities are you a part of? This full moon offers you a time to simply reflect on the groups that you're involved with and to reflect on the ways in which they nourish your soul. So if you are wanting to call in new groups into your life, what new friendships might you open yourself up to at this time? And then Leo, how do your passions and romantic life fit in with these themes? So spend time on this Aquarius full moon focusing your intentions on the qualities you'd like to call in when it comes to the communities and friend circles that you're a part of. This is also a time to communicate gratitude for and to the communities that you are already engaged with. And so for some of us, if it's a journaling practice, actually writing out your friend groups and your communities that you're involved with and what you're grateful for about them. And then if you'd like, you could even say it out loud in an actual conversation. And so if you are a part of groups, this is a time where it is a good time to check in and just see how everyone is doing, how everyone's feeling. The Aquarius full moon is here to help activate and awaken our capacity to communicate truth. And it's with greater hope. Aquarius offers us hope for the future, greater perspective, and also interconnectedness. Aquarius wants everyone in the group to be heard. Leo is about expressing yourself and having a sense of individuality. Aquarius is also inspiring and uplifting individuality, but through interconnectedness. So we said earlier, Saturn's in Aquarius right now, and this full moon is conjunct Saturn in Aquarius. And so this brings illumination to Saturn and Aquarius for us. Saturn is responsibility, structures, and obstacles. And so we've been experiencing structures and obstacles around the Aquarian themes in our life. So Saturn has been in Aquarius since March of 2020. Some of this might feel repetitive. I've said it a lot over this past year. But Saturn entered Aquarius right at the start of social distancing and the pandemic. And so we've all been moving through some sort of initiation over the past few years when it comes to our relationship with communities and humanity at large. Saturn initiates, it's an initiation process. It's an adulting process. It's maturing. It's aging. So our friendships over the past few years have been tested. They've also been restricted. And so the invitation is for us to see what new levels of embodiment that we're being called to in regards to communication. So we're leveling up the ways we communicate and interact with one another. And so for some, this has had a very sober effect on friendships and communities. Even somber, sober and somber, this can be words for Saturn. So a sober and somber effect on friendships and communities in our life. So as we have this full moon in Aquarius, this is the final full moon in Aquarius, while Saturn will be in this fixed air sign. So this full moon brings a culminating illumination to Saturn and Aquarius's lessons that we've learned. And so for those of you with Saturn and Aquarius, or if you have strong Aquarian placements, this full moon feels really important. This is the culminating moment of your Saturn return if you have Saturn in Aquarius. And so over the last 2.5 years, how have we become more mature in our friendships and interactions? How have we leveled up our ability to communicate with a more progressive and informed viewpoint that takes in the consideration of all beings? So, yes, what is important to remember about Saturn and Aquarius is that although there have been obstacles around friendship and community, which we felt with things like social distancing, with wearing masks. Even social media platforms have been going through some sort of changes. Some say that the internet's having their Saturn return. I actually haven't looked at the birth chart for the internet, but I have heard others say that the internet was made available to all people the last time Saturn was in Aquarius, which I guess was about 28 to 30 years ago. And so even though we've been experiencing obstacles around Aquarian themes, it's all been for our benefit. Saturn is here to help us build. And so Saturn in Aquarius has brought us all greater spaciousness to expand our collective consciousness. I think about social distancing. Well, it's given us all the space to be in our own vibrational field, which is really important for Aquarius. Remember, Aquarius is connected to the stars in the sky. The stars are all dispersed. They're not necessarily holding hands, but they're all shining their light. And so it's like a light grid that's being created around the globe when we allow ourselves the space to be in our own vibration, and hopefully in our own vibration doing work that expands our consciousness so that we can bring greater healing to this planet. And so new structures have been put in place in our life to ensure respectful boundaries when engaging with others in community. If the internet is something that Aquarius rules over, the internet is creating a light grid around the globe so that information can be shared widely, so that we have a new level of conscious awareness of what's taking place on this planet. And so it is no coincidence that you incarnated at this time where you have access to the internet and to this information so that you can awaken your gifts because the planet needs healing. So this more vast awareness of humanity has allowed for greater distribution and greater collective healing. And it doesn't mean that it's all taking place right now, but this time period of Saturn and Aquarius is setting a new 28 to 30 year cycle around these themes. And so as we pass through this portal, this final 6 months or so of Saturn and Aquarius and this Aquarius full moon spotlighting it, it's bringing a much greater appreciation for the preciousness of friendship and for the preciousness of humanity. And so breathing all of that into the nervous system, into the energy body, into the ankles, the Achilles, the calves, all of Aquarius's body parts here. And so this Aquarius full moon is square Uranus and the north node of fate in Taurus. Before I read that description to you and share and go deeper into it, I want to read a little postcard that was sent to me by a student. And I just recently found it in my journal. I'm about to complete a journal. I go through phases where I journal a lot, and then I'll take pauses, and then I'll open up other journals. But this journal I started when I moved to Hawaii back in 2017. And that's actually when I launched the podcast, was September of 2017. So we're coming up on 5 years of the podcast, and I'm coming to the end of this journal, which has turned out to be a 5-year journal. And inside that journal, I found this postcard from a student, and it shows 6 birds in the sky flying. The number 6 is the year that we're in, 2022, if you add up the digits, which is the Lover's card in the tarot. And the Lover's card in the Wild Unknown shows 2 birds in the sky flying. I love that depiction of the lovers. But here it's not just 2 birds, it's 6 birds, which feels very Aquarian, but they're in the backdrop. And then over top is text that are laid over the 6 birds. And so I wanted to read it to you. And as you listen to the words of this postcard, connect to the nervous system, the Aquarian nervous system, and breathe it into the body. So here are the words from this postcard. You are exactly where you need to be. You are brilliant. You are magical. You are whole. You are always becoming. You are loved on your journey. You are powerful. You are illumination. You are fierce. You are new breath. You are tender and strong. You are abundance. You are genius. There is no one like you. You are vibrant. You hold all the answers within. You are curiosity. You are creative. You are connection. You are love. You are new moment of choices and options. You are resilient. You are perfect in all your imperfections. You are ancient. You are a beautiful cycle of light and shadow. You are wisdom. You are enough. You are prayer. You are generosity. You are song. You are alchemy. You are bold. You are beautiful. You are presence. You are movement. You are transformation. You are bigger than your fears. You are dreams come true. You are future ancestors, myth and miracle. You are harvest. You are radiant. You are full of possibility. So Aquarius connects us to broad universal truth, much like that postcard that I just read to you. So I felt called to share it with you. And so washing yourself with universal truth, this is Aquarian. The esoteric phrase for Aquarius is waters of life am I poured forth for thirsty friends. So this full moon conjunct Saturn and Aquarius is square to Uranus and the north node of fate in Taurus. And so on a practical level, what this indicates to us is that this full moon is the halfway point between the two eclipse seasons taking place in 2022. And so the first eclipse season was during Taurus season. This was back April, May of this year, 2022. And then the second eclipse season will be Scorpio season, October, November 2022. So we're here in Leo. It's the fixed fire, and eclipses are in fixed earth and fixed water. The north node in Taurus, the south node in Scorpio. And so we're the halfway point between the nodes of fate and between the eclipses. And so this does indicate a crossroads for us in which fateful decisions and new directions come into play. And so with Uranus and the North Node in Taurus, we're being encouraged to simplify our life. Slowing down, connecting to nature, working hard for the things and the people that we love. This is the invitation of the North Node in Taurus. Building structures that are dependable and reliable. And then we throw in Uranus into the mix here with the North Node. And so Uranus and the North Node only align about every 15 years. And so Uranus indicates rapid evolution, sudden breakthroughs, and it is the modern ruler for Aquarius. And it's interesting, this radical Uranian energy in the sign of Taurus, because Taurus is grounded. So this is saying to us that radical evolution comes through our body and through our five senses. So although like putting your hands in dirt or spending time in nature might seem ordinary, the cosmos are communicating to us that this is actually where rapid soul evolution occurs for us right now. And so how might you give yourself permission to ground and slow down, to tend to your finances and body, to connect to beauty, love, and nature? This is the invitation of the North Node in Taurus for us. And so with Saturn, the traditional ruler for Aquarius, and the full moon in Aquarius square to the North Node in Uranus and Taurus, we're being encouraged to set clear boundaries. This is Saturn, when it comes to who we share our energy, our Aquarian energy with. So an example of this would be if you have been tending to your Taurian finances, how does setting more clear boundaries with how you engage with the Aquarian internet help you in this process? Another example would be if you've been creating a beautiful, luscious Taurian garden, and this luscious Taurian garden could be a metaphor for your life as a whole, what you've been working on and building and cultivating. The question that Saturn in Aquarius brings in is then, how might you be more mindful of which Aquarian friendships are respectful of the work you've been doing before you invite them into your garden space? This is one way that we might be experiencing this Saturn and Uranus square. So these two fixed signs together, when things square, it feels like a business meeting, like they want to come together to build something. And there can be some tension, but I find that signs with the same modality, in this case fixed earth, Taurus, and fixed air, Aquarius, have a lot in common. Fixed signs are deeply stubborn. And when it comes to Taurus and Aquarius, it's deeply stubborn and fixed when it comes to bringing healing to the earth. Taurus is through the love of nature and beauty, through the body. Aquarius is more intellectual and for the future of humanity. But together, these two signs hold infinite potential to help us cultivate greater love and interconnectedness through healing and nourishment with the earth. And so under the light of this Aquarius full moon, I'm wishing for you greater clarity, perspective, friendship, and community support. And I have a guest with us here today on the show who is a Taurus, which is cool because I'm Aquarius and they're a Taurus. And so I feel our fixed qualities coming together for the love of bringing healing to the earth. And so it's my honor to introduce you to Tandy Gutierrez, who is the founder of Unicorn Wellness, which is an online subscription-based wellness center that offers physical exercises like Pilates, energy healing, tarot reading, and astrology. And a lot of the physical exercises are correlated to the cycles of the moon. So this is Right up my alley. So in our conversation, we talk about Tandy's birth chart. We talk about the Leo Aquarius polarity. We also explore pleasure principles, Leo's need to be seen, Saturn and Aquarius, physical training to the rhythm of the moon cycles. And so at this time, let's go ahead and transition into this conversation with Tandy. Okay, so here with us today on Cosmic Cousins, I'm super excited to introduce you to our guest. We have Tandy Gutierrez, who is the founder and creator of Unicorn Wellness and is also hosts a podcast. You're a busy mom, stepmom, wife, tarot reader, intuitive psychic, and author, thriving in an autoimmune body with 20 plus years of experience in the fitness and wellness industry. So thank you for being here with us today on Cosmic Cousins.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted.
Yeah, you had me on your podcast not too long ago.
I did. It's one of my favorites ever. And I'm like, when are we going to do that again?
I know. We talked about Black Moon Lilith, all things. We went in deep. And you had this like intuitive hit that Black Moon Lilith was important. I think, was that the Taurus new moon?
Feels like it.
Yeah, I think it was around that time. And that was right when Lilith was shifting into Cancer. We'll touch base with that today because that has unfolded to be a big theme for us this year.
Huge.
Yeah.
For me too. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll get into all that, but I want to first just connect in with you. And so maybe we can learn what your big three is.
Oh, my big three? You want to just tell them?
Okay, so you're a Taurus sun.
Yes, I am.
The Pisces moon.
Yes.
And the Leo rising.
That is it. That is me.
And that's why we have you on right now. We're going to be celebrating Leo during our time together. And this is for the Aquarius full moon too. So we'll touch base to the Leo Aquarius polarity. Yeah.
I love this. When you sent me an email to schedule this, I was like, talking about Leo? Of course, please. Me and my Leo rising. I love Leo season.
What do you love about it?
I feel alive. I think vitality returns for me big time. It is my happiest. I have been able to set my schedule now to take July and August off. And I say that in air quotes because I'm always doing things. I'm a maximizer. I'm a busybody. But I love this time of year with my kids, right? Without school, it always means warm weather. It typically has meant travel, not in the last 4 years for us. But I just think all the warm, we spend a lot of time either at the pool or at the ocean or the sea. And it's just this calm, there's a lot of flow, but I love the sunshine. I just gets me like, oh, I feel like everything sparkles and there's a lot of hope and potential. It's like totally that Leo enthusiasm, of like anything's possible. The sun is shining.
Mm-hmm. Also, there's that feeling of relaxation, which I think if I really give myself permission to listen to the invitation of Leo season, I kind of start to understand the leisure side of the Leo archetype. And I don't know if it's something that we always talk about with Leo. I think we talk about it more towards Taurus of maybe moving slower and being in relaxation, but I actually feel it really strongly during Leo season. So I'm curious for you as a Taurus sun with a Leo rising, you are very hardworking. You say you take time off this year, but you do that in air quotes.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, I see you're like posting reels on Instagram. You have this whole, you've founded Unicorn Wellness, which is very in-depth community, which I'd love for us to get into today. So yeah, you're very hardworking, but also what is your relationship to Taurus and Leo as signs that might connect us more to leisure and even taking our time?
I think I'm an interesting conundrum with those things at times. I love leisure and play and, the Taurus sensibility of please do not hurry me. I will just fucking sit down. Like I'll just get slower. You know what I mean? Like I will go at my own pace. Like that's just the way it's going to roll. meanwhile, if I want things to move along, I'm going to herd everybody along with me. But leisure is one of those things that it's a learned thing for me to be able to implement it with balance in my life. And in the last, I think, 6 to 7 years, it's just gotten better and better and better and better. I like to do, right? So like, but it's important for me to be doing the things that I like that are pleasurable, right? So if I'm not having fun doing something, you cannot convince me and I am not doing it anymore. Like, no. So I very much lean into pleasure, but these 2 months in the cycle of my life really highlighted. Even my kids are like, it's summer. Mom's going to play video games with us. And it's like, you know, it seems so naughty that mom is sitting down playing video games. It's really important to me and become more and more and more important to highlight the pleasure principles of a life well lived, and to be mindful of the hustle that for me, because I have a lot of fire in my chart in general, they can just take over and start burning everything down, you know?
Yeah.
So these 2 months are like, for me, I think it's an exaltation of walking my talk and actually getting to apply it.
Do you have any kind of ritual that you partake in this time of year? Even just playing video games with your kids can be a ritual in of itself.
I think we just spend a lot of time in water wherever we are. That's a huge one. And it's such a healer and a playful piece for all of us and such a soother. My 2 sons and myself, we have a ton of fire in the chart. So there just is more flow for us. Yeah. I mean, I have a highly ritualized life in general, earnestly, like as far as daily meditations and tarot pulls and those kinds of things. But I don't seasonally, I think it is just that playtime of like, yeah, we're just going to roll with it a little bit and let the reins and the rails off a bit more.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of this fire in your chart. I'm going to pull up your chart here. So we have Mars and Saturn in Leo. Yeah. Two very different energies. So you're in your Leo opposition or your Saturn opposition right now too.
So things
on this full moon, it's Aquarius full moon, and the full moon is conjunct Saturn in Aquarius, which is at the 22nd degree. And then you have Saturn in Leo at the 23rd degree, right across the wheel. So I'd imagine, I heard you say, over the last, I think you said 4 years, you haven't been traveling as much.
Yeah.
I just clocked that Saturn's been in Aquarius, since March of 2020, and that's really been social distancing.
Yeah.
So as a Leo, someone who brings community together is across the wheel from Aquarius. We've been restructuring around community. We've had restrictions and obstacles. So yeah, what has it been like for you as a Leo rising to be experiencing Saturn in Aquarius, and what's it like to have Saturn and Leo in your chart?
I think with this restructuring of things, initially, I don't know that it earnestly has so much to do with the Leo portion, but with the initial pandemic and lockdowns, we had already decided as a family and a household to not travel for a year. This was like a big deal for our household, for stability and for roots. And then it was immediately followed by the pandemic. And so we were like, okay, we are literally grounded. Hi, Saturn, right? And so initially I was like, my Pisces moon, my Taurus, I can be in quarantine forever. I love my own company. We've traveled a ton as a household. And so community has been something different and online, because we've built an online community that has been very genuine, very deep, and very connected. And so I felt like, oh, I got this, right? And for probably 2 of those years, it was fine. And then it started to get cagey that Leo wants to be seen, right? Like want to be out front. And I told you before we we hit the record button that I used to host a full moon ritual here in Brooklyn. And that was one of the loveliest anchors for someone who's had an online community since 2013, like way before it was cool, right? Like it was like a weird thing we did, and everybody was like, how is this going to work? And we traveled, and it was part of why we got to travel. And so gosh, now it's just going through that transformation. What does community mean to me? How much do I need? Who is it? How do I want it to hold space? How do I hold space for it? I mean, that Leo rising right in my first house, that's just identity. And I just feel like there's so much of that that's been melting and melting and remelting and reforming. And I don't even think it's fully reformed, and I also know that it goes through multiple evolutions of rebirth. So I just feel like it's just really getting hammered, in a really great way for a breakthrough to be seen and heard in new ways that really solve for the greater good. But that greater good now is including more of myself. I think that Leo pride and protection of their pride, like of their children and their family, like that's just gotten fiercer and fiercer.
There's a few other people I know with a Saturn and Leo placement. It's a generational energy. So it's, people born within the same few years of each other. And I always think of it as it's like master of ceremony. Like there's an ability for those I know with Saturn and Leo to really hold space and to use themselves as like the vessel for bringing people together in some way. And I feel that from you, like from your podcast, you have this tremendous ability Leo is even about entertainment. Like it's fun to listen to you, but you're also building a structure so that you can bring the community together. I feel the Aquarian polarity so strongly with you. And this Saturn and Leo also, there's a sense here too of embodiment that I think is really important. I think this always with Leo. So Aquarius, and we can connect to your online community that you've created as Aquarian. It's connected to the internet, but which is so futuristic. But Leo is so much about the present moment. And it's so much about being in our body. And I find people with strong Leo, and particularly Leo risings, that's such a key to their work, is about actually like feeling in the moment. It's very instinctual. It's very raw. It's very primal. And I always feel this Leo season, like it's almost like it feels it's like a vulnerable energy for me to be in as a double Aquarius. Feels so exposed. And even this, I went on a really long hike yesterday, and I've been, wanting the sun so bad here in Portland because it's raining most of the year. And then the sun was out and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so intense. Like I'm being fully seen there. Like, my skin needs to be protected. So there's something here too in the Saturn and Leo. It was just like, you learning to really commit to being seen and exposed and raw and vulnerable. There's a lot in here. And I heard pieces of that in what you were sharing, like having an online community, but needing to be seen, wanting to connect with people in person. So,
well, it's an interesting time, right? Again, like holding this space as a community online that is very Aquarian. And lately, I would say in the last year or so, I meet people, new relationships, they really peg me as an Aquarius. Like, you know what I mean? When they're trying to guess kind of, the big three of things. And I think that's really interesting that it comes out so loudly in those reflections.
Do you remember I cast your chart as an Aquarius rising the first time that we met?
Yes. And you're not, it's interesting. I feel like yours was the first voice of that. And then it just kept coming. I was like, okay, universe, I hear you. This is actually getting to be expressed now and perhaps potentially repressed before. I think this is one of the weirdest Leo seasons for me. And last year also, I feel the least seen ever, because I think there's this weird conflict with Leo, right? It is the performer, the teacher. They're out front. They hold space, whether they want to or not. We're wired for it. Right. And then you've got Saturn here too, like the disciplinarian and the rule maker. And so there's structure and very masculine energies, to speak in the binary. And so it can come back and feedback to me over the years of how intimidating or fierce or I don't know. It's a lot of militant structure in that Mars-Saturn combo. But I don't feel that way at all. I feel that inner Leo of the kitty cat of I just really love everybody and I want to take care of everybody. And it's just those who bypass the boundaries get their head bit off. right? Like, I'm clear about the parameters and the boundaries. But the last 2 years have been an interesting shakeup of, I feel less in front of people and less visible than ever before, and more authentic and clearer about the balances.
I think those with a lot of Leo energy will really be resonating with what you're talking about because of Saturn and Aquarius across the wheel over the last few years. Aquarius has been moving through it, but also Leo too. And so I think a lot of what you're talking about is this Saturn opposition to your natal Saturn. Mm-hmm. And it's a threshold that we're moving through. And then next year, Saturn will enter Pisces in March of 2023, and we'll start shifting to new themes. Yeah. So yeah, you have this Mars in Leo too. You're very physical. Could you tell us a little bit about your unicorn wellness and what the physical side of that is, and then also how you weave in the spiritual and the magical?
Of course. Well, I have been a Pilates master teacher. I mean, I've taught Pilates for over 20 years now. And it was something that I fell into. The universe just kept putting it in my path. It was something that I did not expect. And it was very clear. It was supported in these very weird ways. And I just kept saying yes, kept going with it. But again, taught it and knew the Pilates method when it was still this kind of quiet, very boutique-y, elitist sort of thing that nobody really knew about unless they'd been injured. And I was a dancer and I'd been injured. And so it just was it became a part of my muscle memory and my personal kinesiology. And so I started teaching it out of default. It was one of those things that somebody was like, you know how to do this. Can you just fill in for us? And I was like, I don't want to teach. I actually hate this method. And people were like, well, we need a teacher. Can you just do it for a little bit? And then people, paid for my certifications because they wanted me to teach. I got excellent feedback. Members loved me. Clients loved me. Then they asked me to teach, privately. And I was like, wait, I never intended to do this. But I found it very empowering to teach. I never enjoyed the Pilates method because I did feel like it was too structured, too stern, very stiff, very controlling, and then realized I just didn't really like the teachers that I'd had and their method of delivering. And so when I got to teach and got to cue in a way that allowed people to connect and demystified it and took the elitism out of it, it's just a body movement. That's all. Pilates, it was created as a rehab program. It is innately healing. And so being on a journey with it on my own was so empowering and really magical, because working with people on a physical basis, we're a spiritual being having a physical experience, but we are at such war with our vessels and things hurt all the time for most people. I think that was the thing that I was so in awe of. And then by being able to teach Pilates, because it's a healing modality, it allowed them to heal in these really soft and subtle ways. And then you see how they light up and how they become more emotionally and energetically empowered by being physically not in pain, right? Like, it was just unbelievably cathartic to see how something so simple could have such a beautiful effect on people's lives. So that led to a career that, took me to LA, that put me in very elite places and spaces with celebrity clients and their teams. I trained more of their team than the celebrities, like their attorneys and their agents and that kind of stuff. But it got to be a lot of marketing and industry that I just didn't resonate with on a spiritual level. And so, gosh, it's such a long story, but my husband and I ended up launching an online studio. And that was about 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, really nice and solid. And we built the first platform, and it was totally weird. And I left this shiny big career, and took the leap, to do this weird thing. And everybody really thought I'd lost my mind and given up my career and was like, what are you doing? And it was not simple. It's still not simple. But it was very rewarding. I wanted it to be accessible. I wanted it to be accessibility was the biggest piece. I feel like in the fitness and wellness industry, we know there's so much fear mongering and marketing that keep us bound, and keep us spending money because we're still in fear and we're disempowered. And so by teaching the Pilates method at this accessible rate that was like, oh, it's online, just kind of made it this thing, was super cool. And it generated something that I wanted to be a part of, right? To demystify it, to feel empowered, to heal, to be stronger or comfortable or more fluid in your vessel, not to make you a specific size or to keep you in fear of your body. So we launched this online membership, and it's been quite the journey of its own. But at a certain point, I was really gifted this messaging, and I had an aha moment. It's definitely not mine. It was from spirit source. And I was like, wait, what? So I'd really been in this like fitness space for so long, science-based. I had my own spiritual practices, relationship with the tarot and astral travel and all these things since I was 16, but they didn't go together. I was totally in the witch's closet, with all of that. But then this messaging came through that, a 4-week training cycle, which is what you hire a personal trainer to do for you, right? This is why you start to get results, or why things start to heal, or why it prevents injuries when you work with a personal trainer. Most of the time, it's just because they put you in a cycle. Like, that's it. You have 2 weeks where you have moderate effort asked of your vessel. Then you have a week that you push outside of your comfort zone to do something a little bit more than you normally would. And then you have a week of constructive rest. You do something very simple and very quiet and like let the body restore, and you let it integrate the changes that you implemented prior. So this is what most people don't know about like physical movement patterns, is that your workouts don't generate change. They put stress on the vessel to then allow change to happen in your rest cycles. So rest is where the magic is. Rest is where you have results. It's integration time. And so it finally moved through me that this is in direct relationship to the lunar cycles. Our constructive rest week is the week of the new moon. Rest, restoration, repair, go slow, make time to listen and think and to integrate. Don't take action. Just synthesize, right? Yeah. Then you have 2 weeks that you're moving through at moderate pace, daily life. Okay, cool. And then you have the full moon that, is intended to blast us with energy and fuel us to finish up, launch, and complete. So it's like if you've got a project and you're like, it has to be out by this date, you're going to push a little bit harder, maybe be up a little bit later, start a little bit earlier. And so I started to structure everything. And I'd been doing it behind the scenes for so long, but I didn't do it publicly, right? I finally came out of the witch's closet and was like, this is what's been going on. This is why when you all join, you stick with it longer than anything else. And you start to see results of whatever those things are, feeling better, less pain, more strength, more, mobility, in these really sneaky ways. Because the hallmark of my training for over 20 years has been, I can generate more healing and more results for you, and you will feel and actually be doing less. And people are like, what? It's because if you're in flow. So the movement patterns on the site also are written in accordance to the current zodiac cycles. So you have, as a collective, energies being blasted at us. If we are working to balance those, to sift and sort and harmonize, or to, channel them, they're not getting stuck in the vessel. You're moving in flow with the energies that are presented to you. Yeah, clearly I could talk forever about this because I love it so much.
Yeah, I know. I love hearing you talk about it. I had like 20 different questions fire off while you were talking about them. Yeah. And so this is Unicorn Wellness. It's Pilates focus, but it's aligned with the astrological energy. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so cool. I think so many people would really benefit from this. And I know that we're connecting this to the lunar cycles, which you have Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter is often like a place in our chart where we accrue wisdom throughout our lifetime. And it's hanging out with Black Moon Lilith in Cancer in your chart. So we have this strong Cancerian influence over here. And, you're talking about like coming out of the closet as a witch, like this is also, I often refer to Lilith in our chart as this place where we come out of the closet. There's when we're having major Lilith transits. I'm also feeling so much in what you're sharing, though. I'm going to bring it back to this Saturn and Leo, because you're very structured. You're creating a beautiful structure for us that is also sometimes that Leo fire of like putting in a lot of hard work and being motivated. And then sometimes there's the rest and the recovery and the leisure. And I'm thinking of a lion just basking in the light of the sun. So I feel that with the Saturn and Leo too, but knowing you have the strong lunar wisdom in your chart too, with the Cancer, there is something about these 2 months for you too, the Cancer and the Leo months and the Cancer and the Leo energy. And, I'm thinking of the Chariot card in the tarot that balances solar and lunar energy. It often is in front of a body of water, but the sky is bright yellow. They have moon shoulder pads, but they're also harnessing their willpower. So it's this like combo of willpower and intuition, psychic receptivity and being seen. There's something here with Cancer and Leo that's really coming through in your chart and this Chariot card.
I want to hop on that Chariot card. Because it's the card of 2023. It's the card of the year. And it's been so prominent for my magical mentees. So in the last year for Unicorn Wellness Studio, there's been major energies that run through me that are wanting to be seen by the collective, right? And the Chariot card seems to have come a year early for us, of really being present, because the Chariot, says you're in the driver's seat. Which way do you want to go? And has so much to do with the vehicle, right? And that has so much connection to the body. This is how our soul moves through this incarnation, right? And I think if there was anything over all of the years that I've taught in the, as it's grown and as it's evolved, is that my deepest desires for people to, yes, feel empowered, but I do feel like that misses the deepest essence of not feeling disempowered, right? And as a human with expansive collective knowledge, and we're like shoved in a skin suit, that feels just innately disempowering to be in a vessel, And I feel like showing people in these really subtle, kind, odd ways how beautiful it can be to heal with it, to be in harmony with it, to be in conversation with it, to allow it to just be, instead of feeling like we need to shame or beat it into submission. There's so much. We can go back to Black Moon Lilith in Cancer. I think of that great mother energy, right? In Cancer, Lilith wants to be, it's moving through me, in my opinion, but this is the relationship I'm having with her right now. Like, she wants to be known as a nurturer, but in order to grow good humans, we have to have, this Saturn and Mars aspect. We have to be able to warrior for something. And if we can't warrior for ourselves, we can't do it for anybody else. And that, warrioring for something is not always destruction. It's protection. And Saturn, as far as like the rule maker and the disciplinarian, and in so much of this, being grounded, right? Like in the pandemic, is like, go to your damn room. You haven't figured it out yet. You do need to go think about it. And you need to not be moving about the cabin right now so that you can figure out how to not keep repeating these patterns that keep getting you into trouble, so to speak. And so this combination of these energies, I've become very grateful for them, but it's also not typically a narrative people want. In the past have been easy to invest in, right? To learn the deeper lessons of how to create structure and consistency in order to generate flow. It's that dismantling of the internal patriarchy. So I want this, information to move through too, is it is Pilates based. And so in this very like pedantic way, people always kind of side eye that and think it's too structured. It's like got too many rules. It's limiting. But I really have conflicts with yoga, as far as appropriation and as a fitness and wellness culture, how it has been co-opted. And I don't know. So it's got these like pieces to the puzzle for unicorn wellness that people kind of go, what? I don't understand how all this goes together. And then my only response to that is, you just have to test it out. You just have to see if it'll work, because it all goes together,
Yeah. So what I'm getting from this is, if there's someone who is really interested in spiritual practices like tarot and astrology, and they're finding that they need to bring these practices more into their body, or maybe they have an injury right now, or they just need to get things flowing, then unicorn wellness would be a really great option for them. And maybe the other way too, maybe if someone's like really in their body, but is wanting to connect to spirituality, this could also be a community. I could see it going both ways.
It really does. And I know that is the magic in it right there, because it starts to sound like it can be everything to anybody, but Pilates, just from the movement standpoint, loosens what's tight and tightens what's loose. And that's different in everyone's vessel, because its goal is to create balance.
Yeah.
And energetically, I know that that's what happens, for those that it's a fit for that come into the membership, because it's that 30-minute movement practice. There is a new and a full moon tarot reading. There's a new and a full moon energy forecast. And then there is the guided meditation each month. That's also a Reiki healing. Yeah. So it's, again, if you feel like things are wound a little too tight and too practical, this is going to add that magical aspect in ways that are very practical to apply.
Yeah.
And for those who, I can get lost in the magic and the energetics, right? Like that Pisces moon, it's like, zoop, gone.
Yeah.
To find that balance and the grounding and the practical application in this lifetime, it brings that in also.
Yeah. And is this something that people can try out for a month, or is it a long-term commitment? And also you have something coming up this fall too. So as we move into Virgo season 2, which is a great time to start getting into new routines and connecting to our health, people could connect with you, and, you offer such incredible support. I feel that structure of that Saturn and Leo, it would be really nice for people.
Yeah. I try to make things as accessible as possible, knowing that different things are going to work for different people. So if you head to unicornwellnessstudio.com, you will see at the top a little banner. You can try it for 30 days totally as a guest. Use just an email address drop. Like there's no wall, no stumbling block of having to add that credit card information to really explore it. Because if it were a brick and mortar studio, I'd be like, hey, come on in, just come take some classes, come hang out. Same thing. So you can join anytime, you can explore it anytime. Every movement pattern on the site is a mixed level class. So you can begin anytime, you can just hop into the cycle and just press play. So it's very much I always say to people, don't make it complicated. Just come try the 30 days. Just go press play. Just go play. And then if you got questions, just come ask me. That's it. No big deal. And I'll just tiny note that Virgo season, I think, is a wonderful season to begin with me, because it is Pilates based. Pilates is so Virgo, right?
Yes,
and you see
Virgo.
so much of the classical Pilates work in this season, like the traditional mat work. So I just think it's a lovely convergence.
And it's connected to the digestion, the belly, and Pilates is so much focused on that core work too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is where I get, again, these layers of the witchiness to the core, right? We think it's just abs, but it's the bottom of our pelvic floor all the way to the last 2 vertebrae in our neck and our spine. This is your entire torso. So we can reference back to Leo, right? Leo is that solar plexus. This is the capacity to take up space, to shine, to the self-confidence. That's manifestation central, right? So if you're working on your core, you've got most of your chakras there, and the alignment works, because if they're not getting squished and energetically being spoken to, and so there's a highlight in those energetic centers in each.
And Leo rules over the spine.
Yeah.
Leo's connected to the heart and the spine and the hair. So anything that's like erecting our posture, this allows us to come into our power and open up the heart. And yeah, so I feel we're kind of like now seeing how Leo blends into Virgo. We talked about Cancer and Leo, but it's a spectrum. There's 12 signs, but just like the rainbow can be divided into 7 colors, there's 1,000-fold of colors, and astrology is the same way. They all blend together. And so we can feel that just even knowing that right now in the sky, there's certain planets in some signs and other signs, and they just all blend together. So and we can feel that particularly with someone who has a Pisces moon, has that ability to blend all practices, all colors, all things together. So yeah, it's been an honor to connect with you in this way. Thank you for being here with us today.
Well, I super appreciate you holding space for this conversation and for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, as always, Cosmic Cousins, for tuning into the show. If you'd like to support the production of this podcast, please consider becoming a Patreon supporter. And as a bonus, there's a 2-hour lecture on astrology and the body available for free for Patreon supporters only. Also, if you feel called, you could leave a review, leave some comments and love. I was looking back at the reviews. There haven't been any new reviews since April. So it would be nice to receive some new ones. If you haven't left any comments, I'd love to hear from you. Also, share this with your friends and loved ones. I'm wishing for you a happy Aquarius full moon. For those of you that are Aquarius sun, moon, rising, this is your time. So soak up the light of the moon, and I'll see you next time for the Virgo new moon in 2 weeks. Virgo new moon's on August 27th. And the sun enters Virgo on August 22nd. As always, it's an honor to be here with you. Take sweet care, cousins, and remember, deep breaths.